And now, live from Jerusalem, you're listening to Israel-Inspired Radio. Here are your hosts, Rabbis Ari Abramowitz and Jeremy Gimpel.
Shalom and welcome to Israel Inspired on the Land of Israel Network on thelandofisrael.com. This is Ari Abramowitz here with Jeremy Gimpel, and we are back. Not that we've really been gone. But it's good to be sitting here with you, Jeremy.
It's good to be back on the air.
It's good to be back on the air. And the truth is, things are so overwhelming. Not only at the farm, in Israel, in things that are happening in our social circle. This little boy, Yakir Ephraim ben Rachel Dvorah, the little boy of Rachel and Simcha, there feels for me something very powerful and overwhelming happening there. Not only there, but in the world.
You're getting married in just a few more weeks.
I'm getting married in 10 weeks.
I'm moving to the farm in 6 weeks.
You're moving to the farm in 6 weeks. That's true. And this farm is just such an exercise of faith, such an exercise of surrender. You know, and it's almost, for me, the one theme that's been recurring out here has been the manna. You know, when you collect 2 pieces of manna, it spoils and is full with worms and rots and is disgusting. And it's like a perpetual exercise of faith in the desert. Don't try too much to squirrel things away. That's why Hashem loves Am Yisrael so much. He loves the Jewish people so much. He puts us in the land of Israel, where all of our water is dependent on falling out of the sky. He wants our hearts. He wants our prayers. He wants our constant realization that we're dependent on him and having faith that he will give us what we need when we need it, because it's the human condition to try to squirrel things away. Yeah. You know, and at the farm, you know, there's so many overwhelming needs out here that we can get lost in trying to bring in funds for this place and not actually love it and work it. Because I've come to realize that even, you know, the land itself, it doesn't matter deeds or pieces of paper, who owns it, who loves it is really the question in Hashem's eyes. Who's working the land? We've started, actually, I'm happy to say that, I'm grateful that we've started, me, you, and our 2 partners, Yossi and Roni, we've started waking up early in the morning and working for a number of hours in the vineyards, working the trees, working the land, and it's therapeutic, it's good, it's healthy, it's bringing us together even more as friends and as fellow Jews. And it's just, I think there's nothing greater for Jews to bond upon than working the land itself.
And especially this time of the year where we're entering into Parshat Shelach, where this was like the beginning of the end of the Jewish people. It wasn't the sin of the calves. It wasn't the complaining about the manna from heaven or complaining that there's no water. I mean, the golden calf idolatry, that should have been our end.
You'd think, right? The golden calf would be the pinnacle. God would say after that, either you're wiped out or you're not entering the land of Israel. But that wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right after the revelation, during the revelation of Sinai, here we go and worship idols. But it was specifically speaking ill of the land of Israel. That said, that's it, you're done.
But I think there's also a theme there that we've just been talking about. Why did they want to build this idol? Or really, if you really dig deep, you have to understand that they were at a very lofty, high spiritual level. It wasn't like they were, in their minds, worshiping the idol as an end in and of itself. But Moses wasn't coming down. They didn't know what was going on. And there we go again, trying to take control, trying to create their own God, not that they'll pray to, but pray through. Right? Because one of the legs of the chariot that God is riding upon, is the face of a calf. So that it's not like they were saying that is God, but they were praying through it. But when you were not commanded to do the cherubs in the temple, that was allowed. That was allowed. Why isn't it idolatry? Because God said to do this. When God does not say, build a golden calf, build a likeness of some sort and pray in that direction, then that is just not allowed, no matter what your intentions and motivations are. And you know, that's really something we see also in this whole sin of the spies. I feel like maybe you and I decided that, you know, this week we need to do this program, because if there's any week that has a Torah portion that needs to be addressed and needs to be dove into, and we need to swim in these waters of these words, because the calling of our generation, I believe, lies within this Torah portion. It lies within this Torah portion. So, the spies, first of all, I was thinking, just in your credit, because sometimes, we're best friends, so I can be really hard on you. And I was thinking about the spies and what their sin really was, right? So Rav Nachman Kahana, he came out with a beautiful thing. He says it wasn't really the spies that had the sin. It was really the nation itself. And the spies came back with a message that exposed the internal blemish in the nation itself. Now, what was that blemish? What do you think that initial blemish was?
That they just didn't have faith that Hashem is with us, that it'll be okay, even if it seems insurmountable. That whatever it may be challenging, yes, there are giants there, and there's walled cities there. But we just defeated Pharaoh in Egypt. We can defeat them as well.
Right. These were great tzaddikim. The Torah says anashim. Moshe was supposed to choose anashim, and Rashi says great men, tzaddikim, because they really had good intentions. But what did they want? They wanted Judaism to remain a theology. It's. I don't want to cast aspersions because I love every fellow Jew, and I'm willing to say that I'm wrong about everything that I'm saying. I don't know anything. But I can't help, every time I read the Sin of the Spies, I can't help but to think about the rabbis in the exile today that are not encouraging Aliyah, even many that are proactively discouraging Aliyah. And it's for very similar reasons. It's a terrifying prospect. They, in the desert, they were able to be a religion, a theology. They had God guiding them with clouds and with pillars of fire and manna coming out of the sky, and clothing wouldn't wear away. And they were able to be in this little cocoon, in this little womb. And now they have to be born into the world, and they have to fight their own battles, and they have to work the land, and now they have to be a nation among other nations, but at the same time, a nation that's unique, that Hashem is with them, but through their own hands. It's very difficult to make that bridge between Hashem actually doing outright miracles and then miracles happening through you, and you not attributing those miracles to yourself, right? That's like one of the most difficult things. Actually, King David, he says, Ha'emanti ki adaber ani aniti ma'od. Are you ready for this, Jeremy? You've said this many times, right? In Tehillim. In Hallel, we say that. Now, what does Rev Eliezer Biederman say about this? It's really beautiful. He says, Ha'emanti ki adaber. I believed ki adaber because I said, Ani. Me. It's me. I did it. Aniti ma'od. I was very poor in that judgment of saying Ani. Amarti kol adam kozev, right? I said, okay, everybody fails sometimes. I mean, King David was saying there's even times where he himself says, Ani, me, I did it. Moshe was looking for people that would go to the land that would understand that nothing they do is their own doing. Nothing they do is, sometimes we sit here and we're like, what should we do? The truth is we really don't need to do anything, but it's so hard not to do anything and just to do what we're supposed to do. When we say not do anything, we're not talking about just sitting down and doing nothing. We're saying to do our mission, to call out to the world, to study Torah, but not to proactively make the ends in our minds be achieved through our own doing. We can leave those ends, the practical means, to Hashem, but just do what we need to do in that and understand that Hashem will work through us. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, but I think that just needs to be refined a little bit, because the whole essence of entering into the land of Israel is, you have to go and plow the land, and then you have to go and plant seeds, and then there's a part of waiting and praying and learning Torah, hoping that the rains will fall.
Okay,
but there has to be that interaction where we are actually pushing the ball forward. We are doing our part in making...
We're doing our part, meaning we're opening the door, okay? But we're not actually doing it. When King David says, Ha'emanti ki adaber ani aniti me'od, he's saying, I can accomplish something in and of myself through my own strength. Moshe wanted to choose people that would understand that there's nothing they accomplish themselves. And if they really understood that and internalized that, then when they saw these massive spies, they looked like grasshoppers in their eyes. That's how they projected on the spies, how they saw them. But they would say, okay, I can't do anything anyways. Nothing's up to me anyways, so this is just as ridiculous and overwhelming odds as anything else. But when you actually believe that you can do it, that it is in your hands and your own strength, then the challenge is 31 different countries, 600,000 Jews, men fighting in the desert, Jews that just came out of Egypt. They're not like skilled veteran warriors and fighting 31 established kings and countries. It's impossible. It's totally rationally impossible. But I feel like just you and I coming out here and seeing the magnitude just of this place, like, okay, this is so much bigger than us. And I have to tell you that I was thinking about you and I feel like on a certain personal level, give credit where it's due, you're really rectifying the sin of the spies in a way that I'm really, I don't want to say envious of, but I yield. You know, I put my head down because when I put my feet in your shoes, I don't know that I would have the courage and strength to do it, because there's every reason in the world for you not, and I don't want to start talking you out of coming out here, but there's every reason in the world for you not to, right? One of the main reasons is your brother, Danny, he has all these kids and you have all these kids and they run to each other's house and play, and your brothers do, your wife is best friends with his wife. That's something that you can't just replicate anywhere. You had a house, you're settled in, the dream that everybody is looking for. And then you sell the house to build a house out here in a place where everything can go wrong. Every direction I'm looking, I'm like, that could happen, that could happen, that could happen. All of these things could go wrong. We could be attacked by the Israeli government could come and decide to throw us out of here and destroy our homes, or the Arabs could come and attack us, or 101 different things that I don't want to go into all the different, but you are unreasonable. You're saying, I'm going to sell my house, come and build a house out here on this mountain in the outside of fences, outside of gates, no security. Is it not? Tell me about that. How is that for you? Be honest, share what's the internal struggle. Because for me, I got to tell you, my great uncle was a fighter pilot. He was a bombardier in World War II. And there was a guy that would come up with him on all of the missions he went on, and he soiled himself every single time. And my great uncle said, that is the most courageous man. Because for me, I have some sort of death thing. I'm not afraid of death. I haven't really connected the dots on the danger that I'm facing here. But he knows the danger and he does it anyways. Do you know the dangers?
Yeah, I think that the reality is kicking in. I feel very much like I'm reading the story of the Jewish people leaving Mitzrayim and coming to Eretz Yisrael. And it's a process, I think, of anyone in their own journey, in their own life. It's just a blueprint of how we should all live, or how we all live. And, 2 years ago, I said, that's it. I'm going to move my family out to the mountain. I'm going to raise my children here barefoot, working the land of Israel, shepherding sheep.
There's something about the barefoot kids running around thing.
Yeah.
It's like indigenous Judean children. It's
just the way it was meant to be. And so I said, this is the last generation of the exile, the first generation of Mashiach. I want to live the way the Jewish people have dreamed of living for 2,000 years. And I'm coming out. And so I made that commitment. I knew that it was the right thing to do. It felt like it was the right thing to do. I know that Hashem is calling me to make this place come to life, because without living here, then it's still just a construction zone. Once we move here and families live here, then it will act like breathing the spirit into this place. And so it was like, when Moshe first spoke to the Jewish people, he said, I'm going to take you out of Egypt, and one day your children are going to ask you, how did we get here and why are we doing this? And you'll be able to tell them, we were in Egypt and this is the story. And they were like, yeah, Moshe, we're with you. Let's go out to Egypt. And now as they come right to the very end, they're sending spies into the land. And they're like, whoa, there are a lot of things that could go wrong here. We're really going to do this now? We're actually going to go into the land? This is like a little bit terrifying. Are you sure you want to do this? And so I definitely feel now a pushback of reality of like, wow, we're actually going to have to go up against these fortified cities. And there are these challenges, and there's, giant challenges over here.
But let me interrupt. When I see it from the outside looking at you, I knew that there was going to be a pushback, but I feel like on subconscious level, and tell me if this resonates as true, that there's a big reality, more of a reality, and negative resistance will be ahead of you than you see. But you intentionally don't look at it. You intentionally don't think about it. You burn your bridges behind you, meaning there's someone moving into your home that in Neve Daniel, July 24th. That is happening. That bridge has been burned. There's no going back. Now you're like, oh my goodness, all these things. But on some level, when you sold it, you didn't want to think about those things. Or did you look at them soberly?
Yeah, I think I looked at all the realities of what we're in it, meaning we can either navigate our lives by the fears of what will be or by the desires of what we want to see. And so I feel like I'm just being led by my desires and not by my fears. And my desire is to settle the land of Israel. And I think on a deep level, I was talking to my children yesterday. I said, I try to be a good father, and I, try to give over the values and teach the things that I believe in. But more important than what I say is what I do. And I feel like my children will always be able to look at me and say, our Abba believed in the land of Israel, and he lived it. And so he lived his beliefs, and he followed through with those beliefs in a very real way. And so if just for my children to see the way a Jew is meant to live in the world, that we're not just meant to believe in this religion or have a theology or an abstract God that we sort of relate to, but rather to take our beliefs and to bring them into action, to live be'emunah, to actually take that emun, that loyalty that we have, to take the imun, the practice to that cause and bring it into reality. So there's going to be a lot of challenges here. There's a lot of obstacles that stand in my way. But I feel like it is a tikkun, because the spies could have come back and they saw the reality as it was. Listen, there are giants in the land. There are fortified cities. There are huge challenges.
They didn't lie about anything.
There was nothing. There was just, they were given an honest report. And so I'm looking at the reality that's before me here. And I say, wow, there's going to be a lot of challenges. We're going to be alone on a mountaintop. My wife is going to be alone. My children are going to be alone. How are we going to do this? And I just want to see it through different eyes. And I think that it's an opportunity of a lifetime. And, we all have only one life to live, at least this life. Maybe we have multiple lives that we've already lived and that we will live. But right now in this world, as far as I know, I don't know about those past lives, and I don't know about future lives. I know that I have this life to live. And so I want to live this one the best way that I can. I want to make this life a work of art that I will be able to present at the end and say, I had these opportunities and I lived it to the fullest. And so this place, everyone that comes out here, whether they be Jews, whether they be Christians, whether they be atheists, Israelis, out of towners, they come out here and something magical happens to them. So I know that this place is going to be a blessing for so many people.
Right. For me also, at the beginning, I thought it's like, okay, this is just me. Something's up with my brain. There's a quirk here that I see that this place is destined and magical and holy. But then when I see person after person, Jew, Christian, whoever comes out here is so deeply touched and moved and says things like it's changed their life after they've been here for 10 minutes, I have to agree with you. So let me just give you an example here, right? So when the spies enter the land, well-fortified cities. Now the sages say that while that intimidated the spies, that should have been an encouragement to them. Right? Because if the cities are so well fortified with fences and alarms and all of these protective measures, well, it says that the people may not be so strong themselves. And so that, I think, was part of the subconscious psychology of us when we came out here, not putting up fences, not putting up walls, not putting up alarms. But are you nervous about that? For me, I'm a lone guy on a hilltop with a gun and a dog. But you're bringing out 6 children and a wife. Is that a concern for you?
I mean, there's always concerns. There's concerns of getting in the car in the morning. There's a concern of getting on a plane in the afternoon. And, there are fears and there are concerns everywhere. But coming out here and living the way that the patriarchs and matriarchs of Israel lived, to live the way the Jewish people lived in the times of Ezra and Nehemiah, in the times of the Maccabees, in the times of the judges, just to live out in the land, to wake up in the morning and work the land, to not live in a quadruplex surrounded by 300 other homes because we have to live in settlements, but just to live on the land as was envisioned by the prophets. It says, Ish tachat gafno v'tachat te'enato, that each man will sit under his fig tree and under his vine. It doesn't say we're all going to live in quadruplexes or in shoeboxes in some skyscraper in a condo in Tel Aviv, but that each Jew should actually live connected to the land of Israel. And so there is what to fear, but there are precautions that can be taken. And if this is the era in which we're living, that the Jewish people are actually being restored, we are returning back to ourselves, then I want to live that life now. I don't have that many more years on this earth, so I want to contribute my chelek, my part, My part is to create the vision that the prophets had and bring it into the world so the world could see what it would look like, and then invite people from around the world to come and participate with us. You want to come and live alongside us? You want to come work the land with us? You want to study Torah with us? Let's do it. But there is no place right now that's actually bringing that vision into the reality of 2018. And so if we have that opportunity to do that now and raise my children in that consciousness, we will raise a new a super Jew. It's a new kind of Jew that hasn't been seen yet.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But, you know, you have always been a little bit different than me in that way. And it's not a better or worse. It's just different. That, you know, you say the patriarchs and the matriarchs. For me, that verbiage is almost, it sounds monarchic. It sounds very official. It's like our abbas and imas, right? It's our parents. That's one thing I've noticed when I speak to these Jewish kids that come to Israel. One of them said, "What is Judaism to you?" I said, it's a family. Right, we have our great-great-great-great-grandfather, Abraham, and he had Isaac, and then there was Jacob, and Jacob had 12 sons, and we were all descended of those 12 sons, and we're a family, first and foremost, beyond anything else. And when you say the vision the prophets had, I don't know, less and less since I've been out here am I compelled by the visions of the prophets. It's almost taken on a life of its own within me. Meaning I love being here. I have like a passion for the land. It's not like, oh, this is the land that the prophet said that this would happen and I want to fulfill that prophecy. It's just a passion in and of itself. And I think that perhaps the prophets saw what would be happening in our hearts and said that this is what's happening. But it's almost backwards in some level for me. But I know also the prophets said these words to guide us.
So here's the question. Why do people do what they do? That's really the question. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do you do what you do? Why do people do what they do? Why do you think?
Well, just like you said earlier, there's two potential reasons, fear and desire, right?
Okay, and what is their desire? What do they want?
Who's they?
Who? People. Why do you do what you do?
I can't answer that very broad question.
All right.
Why do people do what they do?
I have an answer.
Okay, go ahead.
People want a feeling. That's what they want. They want a feeling. Why do they want money? Because they think it's going to bring them a certain feeling. Why do they want to get married? Because they think when I find that person, I'm going to feel a certain way. Why do they? It's a feeling that people want. Maybe they don't know how to define the feeling. Is it happiness? Is it joy? What is this thing they want? Something. Meaning, if you were to offer someone $1 billion, but you know you're going to end up depressed, paranoid, anxious, and in a mental hospital, the $1 billion isn't going to do it. So people are desiring some type of feeling. And they're chasing it their whole lives. And they're running after money, and they're running after women, and they're running after drugs, and they're running after fame, and they're running after fortune. But all of these pursuits are because inside they want a certain feeling. That's just the truth. At least that's what I seem to be true. And so as I've come to learn in my life, what then is that feeling? And in my opinion, the whole Torah and all of the visions of the prophets are the pathway to that feeling. But let's first define, in my mind, what that feeling is. That feeling, in my opinion, is when our soul is revealed. When our soul is revealed, a certain life force enters into our body. A certain passion, excitement, thrill, happiness, serenity. It's when our soul takes over, not our fears, not our bodies, but when our soul is revealed, that's the feeling that we want, when our true selves come out. And so sometimes our soul can be revealed when we just have a good meal. Our soul is actually excited by that. A new thing that we buy, our soul gets excited about that. And it doesn't last. But what the vision of the prophets gave us in the way our patriarchs and matriarchs lived, they were living a soul-filled life, a soul-guided life. Why am I coming out here ultimately? Because as soon as I step out of my car and I put my feet on this land, my soul is revealed.
Yeah, you have your spot. You have your spot.
There's places in this farm that I go to where immediately my soul just becomes more present. And I feel that feeling that I've been looking for my whole life. And what's so exciting about this place is when other people come out here, it happens to them as well. And they say, I just want to come back again. It was the highlight of my trip. They've been to Israel 50 times. They've been to the Kotel. They've been to the highest places in Israel. But somehow there's something that happens in this place, definitely for me. But I see that it's happening to other people as well. But here's the deal. A study was just made about this happiness or this feeling. And it says that the way that happiness is revealed is in the service of a cause beyond yourself. It says, if you try to make yourself happy by making yourself happy, You won't find it there. If you serve a cause outside of yourself, you'll actually discover happiness. But if you serve that cause outside of yourself in order to make you happy, you won't find happiness.
You said something to a group here yesterday that really resonated deeply with me exactly on that subject.
So we had a group that came out to the farm just in the last 2 weeks, just so you know. We've had groups from Norway, Australia, Germans that came here and planted a new vineyard for us, Africa, Canada, all over the United States. So yesterday it was a group from the United States that came out, and we were just learning the Torah portion together. And I was saying that, when the spies went into the land, the Hebrew says vayaturu et haaretz, and they went and spied out the land. But latur doesn't necessarily mean spy. I mean, it also means spy. But
no, it actually doesn't.
Also means to tour the land, to just go in and look at it. And the taf and the resh, which is really the roots of those words there, those two letters are very peculiar, because the first time we talk about seeing in the Torah, it says vatere ha'isha ki tov ha'etz lema'achal v'chi ta'avahu la'enayim. And Eve, the woman, saw this tree of good and evil, and she had a lust for it, because it was a lust for the eyes. Vatere ha'isha vayaturu et haaretz. The way that she looked at the tree of knowledge of good and evil was the same way that the spies looked at the land of Israel. And the way we can look at the world is in two ways. We can look at the world as good and bad. Is this good for me? Is this bad for me? What do I get out of this? Vatere ha'isha, it's a ta'ava, it's a lust. How can I fulfill my own desires? In the land of Israel, people walked in and they weren't loving it. They were spying it out. Is this good for me? Is this bad for me? What do I get out of this? Am I going to be served by this when I marry a woman? What does she do for me? What do I get out of this? And there's another relationship. There's a relationship of how do we look at our wives? How do we look at the land of Israel? What should our relationship be to this land? And so what came to me is that the land of Israel is without a doubt a feminine aspect. It's written about all throughout the Torah. Ha'eretz yafa, ha'adama yafa, Mother Earth, em habanim smecha.
Seeds are planted within it.
Seeds are planted within it. It's what gives birth to us. There's no question that the relationship that we have with the land of Israel, it's a relationship that we have in some ways with a woman. Now, we have lots of women in our lives. But what is the woman that we look at the land of Israel? So the way, vayaturu et haaretz, the parsha, of course, ends with lo taturu acharei levavchem. Again, the same tough and resh. Don't go after your eyes. Asher atem zonim acharehem. As you prostitute yourself to them. That's a relationship we can have with a woman. I mean, that's what I want. What is this, good for me? I just want to get what's in this for me. That's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. What's in this for me? But then there's the tree of life. And how do we look at the land of Israel? Well, we could look at the land of Israel as our wives. But I think truer to that is Eretz Yisrael is our ima. She's our mother. And so some people ask us about the farm. Look, are you ever going to finish this center? I mean, you're $1 million away. Are you ever going to finish this Beit Knesset? Are you ever going to finish this project? What are you going to do? Or how do you think you're ever going to accomplish this? So obviously this is so much larger than Ari and I could ever accomplish by ourselves. But if Eretz Yisrael is our ima, it's not about accomplishing. It's not about winning. It's about how much we love this place, how much we try towards this place. Ari just said, when a child makes her mother a picture, it doesn't matter what the picture is. It's how much time and effort and love was put into that picture that was presented to our ima. And so the way to look at Eretz Yisrael with the eyes of life, through the tree of life, isn't to lature ta'aretz, vatere ha'isha, velo taturu acharei levavchem ve'acharei einechem. It's not that kind of seeing. But it's seeing the land of Israel. When we were out in the vineyards just the other day, we were there for 4 hours at the crack of dawn, just working the land because we love the land. And I feel like there was no purpose. There was no goal. It was just to be with Eretz Yisrael, just to be.
And you really said it beautifully yesterday also, because there's a certain foundational verse. The group that came yesterday happened to be non-Jews. and or at least many of them were, I think. And there's a verse, a foundational verse in their mantra about why they support Israel. What's the foundational verse? He who blesses Israel will be blessed. Genesis 12:3. Right. And you pointed out beautifully that if you're blessing Israel in order to get that blessing, that's the reason you're doing it, because you want something, then you're right back into what is this going to do for me? It's this, some of this video was circulating about this pastor that's raising money for his third jet. And it's so important for him to have this private jet that doesn't have to make one stop.
More than $50 million.
Right, but he's bought other jets before, meaning other people are giving money. Well-intentioned, good Christians are giving money to this because there's this thing called the prosperity gospel, where if you just give money to this pastor, then you will have money too. So it's really about what you get. But you said it beautifully. You said the blessing is to be a blessing, to be that vehicle. The one thing Joshua and Caleb said.
Well, I just wanted to bring this one quote exactly on that issue. This is a quote from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. And he says, this was really the sin of Eve. This is the sin of our generation. And it's how we can fix our eyes. And he says, our age is one in which usefulness is thought to be the chief merit of nature, in which the attainment of power, the utilization of its resources, is taken to be the chief purpose of man in God's creation. Man has indeed become primarily a tool-making animal, and the world is now a gigantic toolbox for the satisfaction of his needs. And so is that how we look at our land? What can we get out of it? Maybe I'll just pump the oil. I'll dig the gold. I'll just rape the land in order to pull out its resources so I can then go use it. But what's so beautiful about this mountain is when we first got here, there was not one tree. It was just rocks and thorns. And we've come and we've blessed the land.
We've given everything we have to it, where to a degree sometimes I'm like, oh, I literally have, let's see, my net worth consists of my Toyota from 2004 that's worth about maybe 1,500 shekels, and I feel like the richest guy in the world. Digging it, spending it all, pumping it all into here, which, by the way, our personal financial resources pumped into here wouldn't have gotten it close to where it is. There have been these people that come along the way and just are filled with a passion and like a Lev Shomei, a listening heart, and just, I need to help, I need to give unconditionally.
I also find it really interesting, the fact that the spies, what did they bring back? They brought back grapes, pomegranates, and figs. And that's kind of interesting, but those are like really good snacks. Those were like old school junk food. You can't really live off that kind of food. They could have brought wheat, they could have brought barley, but they brought back pomegranates and grapes. And so that's in some way like, it's like Israel is just like
a Disney World.
Yeah, it's like a one-night stand. It's like really fun to snack on, but to like bring it home, it was just like another expression of the relationship that had no relationship. It was just like a tourist coming. Sometimes I see these tourists that come to the land of Israel, and they're Jewish tourists, and there's Christian tourists, and there's business tourists, and they just come in and they kind of see what's happening, and they get that fix. They get their fix. They got what they were looking for, and then they leave. And they go, and then once a year they'll probably come back. Maybe they'll come back for Sukkot.
But it's not a place to live.
Right. It's not a place to live. It's just a place. I got my fix. I got that good feeling. Okay, I used the land for what I needed it for. I got energized. Now I can go back to New York and go back to that life. Instead of, what can we do for Ima?
That's true, but while it's very easy to throw stones, I can just be honest about my experience at this place, and it's not all a big exhilarational high. There are times when I'm here and I look around and I just say, wow. My greatest imagination is surpassed exponentially by the magnitude and the beauty and the mystery and the holiness of this place. But there are other times I look and I see this spiritual retreat center that we're building, for lack of a better, more accurate term. We just say different, prophecy school, Judean embassy, whatever it is. I'm like, oh my goodness, how much money is it going to be? How are we going to get enough money to build this thing? Is it going to go? Is the builder going to go away? And all of a sudden my eyes get shrouded with fear and concern and all the same thing, where 1 minute I'm seeing it one way, the next minute I can see it another way. And it's like, it really is a human condition, and it can happen to anyone. And that's why, you said this beautiful idea about the tourists. Latour, they came to, when they left, it was in order to see the good in the land. And then once they were here, they became meraglim. And what do spies do? They're here to see the bad and the weaknesses and the badness there. And so their eyes just shifted, and there had to be a very powerful force of resistance that Hashem put into the world and into their minds. That's why Caleb, as great a tzaddik as he was, he wanted to go to Hebron, to the tomb of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in order to pray, please, please help me, with the self-awareness and recognition that he himself could fall victim to that. I'm not sure what side I would have fallen out on. I would like to believe that I would have been like Caleb and Joshua. But, even them, their words, if, our sages say that their words may have misled the people themselves. I don't know if you've ever thought about this way, but they said, Im chafetz banu Hashem. They spoke to the entire assembly of the children of Israel, saying, the land that we passed through to spy out, the land is very, very good. But here's the phrase that can throw people off. If Hashem desires us, that's even how it's translated in the Torah. If Hashem desires us, he will bring us to the land and give it to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. And the people are like, if Hashem desires us? Is there an if here? Is there room for, because if there's 31 countries, 31 kings with massive armies, and it's only us, if you're saying there's a question, even Art Scroll has translated if Hashem desires us. But if you read it differently, Im chafetz banu Hashem, if Hashem's desire is within us, meaning it's not about Hashem desiring, he desires us. But they were saying if Hashem's desire, if we make our desire into Hashem's desire, then it's done. The story's over. Well, of course, they're bread in our hands. We just have to put aside our own thoughts and our own fears and our own confusions and say, is Hashem's desire our desire? Not how can God serve me, but how can I serve God? Right? Was it Kennedy that said that? Ask not what your nation can do for you, what you can do for your country. So that's what really the question needed to be. And just, when you're afraid of things, when there's a specific thing you're afraid of, your radar is up, ding, 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 and it's looking for any sort of Achilles heel in the idea that you're afraid of, and you will latch onto that. And I think that maybe even the people didn't know that Hashem could conquer these nations himself. It was so overwhelming and daunting a task. Really, it's hard to throw rocks at the nation of Israel with this sin when it's a very, very human thing.
But here's what we can do. We can look at their mistake and see like, wow, those were real people in real times in real situations. And now, they cried. And then Rashi says, you cried for this generation. I'm going to make this cry last for many generations. And so all of us really have to ask ourselves, so many questions. Where am I living? How am I living? What is driving me in my life?
What am I crying about?
And so, Alona alevi arashnu ta kiacholnu chala. Those are like the most inspiring words in the Torah. Like, let's go up. Let's do it. We can do it. And so, folks, we just have this one life to live. And I just look at Ari Abramowitz and I'm thinking, he's already on this mountaintop. He's already living the life. And so,
I'll tell you though, Jeremy, I put up security bars on the windows. That to me was like my gesture towards reasonable thinking. Well, I got engaged. She's going to be moving out here with me soon. That's a huge leap of faith on behalf of Shayna to come out here. She's super excited about it. She said it's been a dream of hers, but at the same time, it's a leap of faith, And so I was like, okay, bars on the windows. That's the least I can do. That's a good gesture there. But that's what we're talking about. If there's one thing I would say, what's the theme here from the beginning of this show until the end, from really the Torah also? The theme is, what do we focus on? Hashem puts us into this world. If you walk into my bedroom, you would say that is the mind of a madman. I have whiteboards, I have papers, I'm constantly trying to write mantras and that I can read morning, afternoon, and night to remember who I am and what I'm about, because I can see things so clearly, and then the next minute I'm so confused. Who are we doing? What are we doing? What is going on? And that's it's not a coincidence that the tzitzit, the commandment to wear the tzitzit, the fringes on our garments, came right after this sin of the spies, because they saw the wrong thing. They had the wrong eyes, and the tzitzit is there to make sure we have the right eyes. I mean, there's deeper parallels to it also. I remember once I was sitting on this long plane ride next to this very ultra-Orthodox rabbi from Borough Park, and we were talking about Israel and Zionism and why he's not, and he gave me all his reasons, and I remember asking him just one question. I said, so I asked the rabbi, why do you wear tzitzit? Why do you wear tzitzit? We don't need to wear tzitzit, but we go and we want to fulfill all the commandments that we possibly can. So we go and we get a four-corner garment, right? You only need to wear tzitzit on a garment if you have a four-corner garment. But if you don't, then you don't need to wear tzitzit. But why does every Jew want to wear tzitzit? Because if it's a commandment that you can fulfill, then you buy the garment, you put tzitzit on it, so you can wear it. I said, in the land of Israel, there's all these laws, these mitzvot, even referring to the fruits and the vegetables of the land, just on a very basic level. These are commandments that you can't do in the exile. If it's about wanting to fulfill as many commandments as possible, shouldn't you want to be here? But really, it's not just about the commandments. It's about the tzitzit giving you the eyes to see it with. I remember when I was working with the Israeli government, and there was so much moral confusion there. And I would wear my tzitzit out, and I was like, oh, I always thought that tzitzit, it says they're there to protect you, that like you get in a car accident and there's some sort of metaphysical protection that the tzitzit give you. But no. It's saying it gives you the eyes to protect you from falling to the sin of the spies, to see things through a fearful manner, through a selfish manner. And that's why there's tzitzit on all four corners of your garment. So whichever direction you look in, the four corners of the world, you remember Hashem created the whole world, whichever direction you look in, the tzitzit are there to remind you that Hashem is in charge of everything, that you're sort of immersed, but that's the point. You have to lahatzitz. You actually have to look at them. If you just put them on and say, I'm good, then they won't really do as much for you as they really could. If you look at them throughout the day, if you touch them and you remember what the message of the tzitzit is really about. Because, on some level, Abramowitz is, especially the other side of the family, my grandfather's identical twin brothers' children, they would always wear tie-dye. It was like the Abramowitz family uniform. If they would go to Disney World together, tie-dye, and then they would just stand out as the tie-dye family, and they would be able to see each other. On some level, tzitzit, these messages within the tzitzit, it's like a uniform. It's saying, I am a servant of Hashem. I'm not a servant of my physical body, of my lusts, of my fears. I'm a servant of Hashem. Im chafetz banu Hashem. If Hashem's will is within me, I'm serving Hashem. And then when you get over the thing of saying, I don't want to be anyone's servant, and you understand that being the servant of the creator of the world is the most invigorating and exciting and freeing thing that you could possibly ever do, then of course you're going to want to pursue fearlessly all of the wonderful opportunities Hashem has put in the world, the primary one being the land of Israel. This land is I'm thinking about going and interviewing people, because I always talk to these Olim Chadashim, and I say to them, what is so exciting about Israel? How has your life changed? And I noticed that there's always a certain frustration. There's a certain variable that is just difficult to put into words. It's like something in the air. It's some sort of abstraction that you can get close to conveying, but it's beyond words. The life, living the life in the land of Israel, it's just imbued with a certain vitality that you just don't have anywhere else. But I think on some level you get it when you come here. And it's like you can wear white tzitzit, right? Which is just playing it safe. What white means, it's like expresses the compassion of Hashem. But the blue, the tchelet in the tzitzit, which of course is coming out into the world in our generation. Yishai talks about it, the true blue Jew, tchelet. We have it on our tzitzit. Now that I've started wearing it, it's like I can't go back to living inside a fence anymore. I can't go back to wearing tzitzit without tchelet. It would just be like a body without blood. That's what it feels like to me. And what does the tchelet remind you of? There's a God in heaven. God is the creator of all of the heavens and all of the earth. And that's who we're serving. And what a wonderful merit.
Yeah, it's why are we here? And I think that's the ultimate question. All of us want to get to the land of Israel, spiritually, emotionally. We all want a certain feeling inside of us. And if we realize that the Torah is telling us that feeling is when our soul is revealed, so our soul can really only be revealed. Prophecy can only be achieved in this land. But there's so many fears. There's so many reasons not to go to the land of Israel, so many reasons not to make Aliyah. But fear is literally the blockade of our soul being revealed in the world. It's like the antidote. You cannot have your soul revealed if you are consumed with fear and anxiety. And so, do we have it in us to just be driven by our desire to actually like achieve what we deeply, deeply want and have our soul be revealed and have it be revealed in this land? And so this is our opportunity to fix the greatest mistake in Jewish history. And we can fix it in our generation by stepping beyond our fears, following our desires, and having our soul be revealed in the land that reveals it.
Right. That's a beautiful journey. I want you to know your whole move out here, however much it's been making your head spin, has been very inspiring. I know not only to me, but to your friends in Neve Daniel and Efrat. Everybody's talking about it. It's a pretty irrational, unreasonable thing to do, and inspiring in that way. And so I want to end by introducing the Better Know a Jew. I really want to start diving into that more. There's so many incredible Jews I meet, not only in Israel, but also around the world. And recently, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, I interviewed a man, a Jew, a rabbi of a congregation. His name is Rav Yecheskel Freundlich. He's the congregation Tiferet Beit David Yerushalayim in Canada. That's a mouthful, but there's a lot in those words, and I love the fact it ends with Yerushalayim. And what really struck me about him was his story, that he told me that you know, early on he was not a Zionist. He was not into Aliyah. He was not really into the Israel thing. And then his eyes were opened, and he was intellectually honest. He was true to that which he knew was true, no matter what the cost was. And so he's now a rabbi in Canada, but as opposed to the other spies, he has a positive message about Israel. He celebrates Aliyah from his community. And so he came out here to our mountain. We're calling it the mountain now, right? Because we've been calling it the farm, but someone came out here and really put into words what a number of people have been telling me in sort of more abstract ways. He said, I was agreed to come out to the farm. He asked me to come. I like to say yes to things. And I was picturing a corn on the cob and some stuff like that. And then I see that this is the 7th, 8th, and 9th wonders of the world. You can't call it the farm. So I said, what should we call it? He said, call it the mountain. And I like that. So call it the mountain. It's that's really what it is. So he came out here to the mountain, and I was able to interview him, and he was really touched by this experience. So to our listeners out there, meet Rav Yecheskel Freundlich. Be in touch with me and Jeremy. Ari@thelandofisrael.com, Jeremy@thelandofisrael.com. Love y'all, and come out here. Shalom Aleichem. Ari Abramowitz here from the hills of Judea. And as promised, we have a series called Better Know a Jew. And we have not just a Jew with us, but a very prominent and important Jew who has come out here to our hilltop in Judea from Montreal. He is the chief rabbi of Montreal, one could say, or is there not really a chief rabbi?
Not quite. There actually is somewhat of a chief rabbi who would take offense at that statement, but other than that, we'll be okay.
Okay,
you're
definitely the chief rabbi of your shul.
That's correct.
In Montreal.
Correct. The Bailey Shul, as it's known as, or TBDJ, Tiferet Beth David, Jerusalem.
Rav Yecheskel Freundlich, it's an honor to have you join us out here.
I am thrilled to be out here. This is so far away from Montreal. I am loving every moment of it. It is gorgeous, the scenery, being out here in the hilltops, the farmland. I love it.
So what brings you to Israel on this trip?
This particular trip was started off as a little bit of a family trip. My sister made a bat mitzvah for her daughter, and my parents live here. My 2 sisters live here. So I took the opportunity to come, and while here, as I was speaking with you a little bit earlier, I had a chance to visit in Chavat Gilad, the widow of Reb Brazil Shevach, and taking some opportunities to just see the beautiful land that Hashem has blessed us with.
And we already established here that you are an official extremist because you're going to the different extremes, the Jewish presence tip in the north and the south, right?
That is right. That is right. This is the first time I've been called an extremist, but I wear it with pride.
So let's find out a little bit more about your story briefly. So you born in?
I was actually born in Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky. Yes.
I was talking to a fella.
Yeah.
Southerner.
That's right. That's right. And I after there, I spent very little time there. My father was finishing a doctorate in psychology. I had the good fortune of being born while he was there. I grew up a little bit in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then most of my life really in New Jersey. Post high school, spent 2 years here in Eretz Yisrael in Kerem B'Yavneh. And then spent 5 years in Baltimore, Ner Yisrael in Baltimore.
After Karen B'Yavneh.
After Karen B'Yavneh, which was really a sort of compromise. I wanted to stay here a third year. My parents would have nothing of that. But in Baltimore, in the yeshiva, you can't do college classes for the first 6 months. So it sort of was a way for me to gain another 6 months of time in yeshiva. And
Middle Eastern negotiating tactics.
It worked.
Was the second year here also a negotiation, or they were?
Yeah, that I got it. That was okay. That was okay. So I spent 5 years in Baltimore during the time I got married, and then my wife and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and we spent 15 years there. About 4 or 5 years there teaching in a high school, boys' high school, and then nearly 10 years as the associate rabbi of Congregation Beth Jacob with Rabbi Ilan Feldman
In Atlanta.
in Atlanta.
And you found your way up to Canada how?
And we are now a year and a half in Canada. After our stint in Atlanta, we were looking around for a chance to begin in a shul of our own. And timing worked out perfectly with the shul in Montreal. Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz had been there for 19 years, and he took a position in New York City. And Shidduch was made, and it's been a year and a half. It's been a glorious year and a half there.
So let me ask you, this is clearly a very pivotal point in Jewish history. And particularly among the diaspora, exiled Jews, there's a lot of challenges I'm sure you're facing there as a leader of a community in Montreal. What are some of the great challenges you see?
The truth is, it's safety-wise, we don't have any such challenges yet, thank God, in Montreal.
Physical safety.
Yeah, as far as physical safety. But spiritual challenges are all over the place in the diaspora. That is clear. And Montreal happens to have a very strong Aliyah rate because of the French aspect of Quebec. Many Montrealers have moved here over the last 10, 20 years, I'm told, and I see it regularly, even the last year and a half that I've been there. It is a destination, and slowly but surely all the communities of the diaspora are filtering their way back home.
Bezrat Hashem. I'm not clear on the connection between the French.
Oh, because the French have required a lot of French language laws. One could not move to Quebec from any other place, let's say from the States, and you'd have to send your kids to a French immersion school as an immigrant. So that is prohibitive for regular Jews. Someone from Tina couldn't possibly move to Quebec. So there's no external growth into the community of Montreal. It's all just internally with what's there, or the Moroccans who are natural French speakers. So the Ashkenazi community is either staying stable or getting smaller over the years. And so many people, where they go, they've gone to Toronto, and a lot have come here.
How do you feel about those French immersion laws, these French?
No comment.
No comment. Okay, I mean, there's something that sort of tickles me about it, being that for me, my name is Ari Yehuda, our Lion of Judah, I guess, right, in English. And coming out here to Hare Yehuda, I realize this is my indigenous habitat, learning the language better and working the land. And there's something towards grasping on to our identity.
100%.
Okay, so is there a movement, and what is the Zionism of Canadian Jewry like, particularly in contrast with what it was like for Jews in Kentucky or in the South?
Yeah. So the truth is, Montreal is a very Zionistic city. My shul is very Zionistic. Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, Medinat Yisrael, is very much prominent in everyone's thought process, as well as where their heart is, as well as they come often. A lot of people come to visit regularly for the Yom Tovim, the Chagim, for summers, for winters. It's a very, very common destination for people. People own homes here. I find it's what the hard part is, staying mekushar, staying connected to what's going on a day-to-day business. People think about Israel, they love Israel, they support Israel, but being in the diaspora, we're still removed from the day-to-day living, the day-to-day politics, the day-to-day things that are going on here. And that's really a task to try to keep together. One of my goals in coming here is to then bring that back, to share my experiences, to share my visit in Chavat Gilad with the Rabbanit Shelach, to share my experiences here in the gorgeous mountains of Judea, just to bring that experience back to the people, that they feel more connected. And it's no secret that the land of Israel, the people of Israel, have become the center of the Jewish world. We could have debated that maybe 40 years ago. It's not a debate. This is the center of the Jewish people. It's the center of Torah learning. It's the center of Jewish thought. This is where the Jewish people are coming together. The kibbutz goliot is happening in front of our eyes, and it's happening. It's a process. It's not simple. Anyone who lives here knows that. But we're on the sidelines in Montreal. Everybody knows that in their heart of hearts. All the Jewish communities of North America. We're on the sidelines watching what's taking place. So slowly but surely, people are coming, but it's a slow process for sure, the Aliyah from North America, but it will happen. It will happen, and this is a place to be. This is the center of development of the Jewish people.
But what's so refreshing about hearing you speak is that, the reason Orthodox Jews, for lack of a better word, don't call their Batei Knesset a temple is because we have one temple, and that's in Yerushalayim. So to hear a recognition and that you're leading your congregation to recognize that this is where their eyes are focused on Israel and Yerushalayim, and that's the center, then that's a very spiritually healthy place. It's hard for me to restrain myself, but just to say, I meet a Rav like you who is obviously like true leadership characteristics, and I think that there's a Tanakh being written about our time, and there are rabbis. There have been a few, Rav Riskin, that relocates an entire community.
Yes, it's a dream of mine. It is definitely a dream. I used to talk about that with my community in Atlanta, that one day we're going to buy a hilltop, just like the one that we're standing on right now, and we're just going to move the whole community. And I would have a few people be like, let's do it. But, it's not so simple, as you know, and it's a dream of mine. And we'll have the same talk in Montreal. And God willing, Mirth Hashem, one day it will actually happen. Well, like one of these empty hilltops, we're just gonna come here. We're gonna settle it. That's the goal. There's no future, and I said this from the pulpit several times. There's no future for Judaism in North America. Whether it's going to be 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, who knows. But long term, that's not where the Jewish people are ending up. We're all coming here. This is where we're going. And it's happening 70 years, a miraculous 70 years. Look at what's happened, and it's only going to continue. So there's going to be a time and a place we'll be able to do so. Looking forward to when that will, when the time will be right.
I know you have to go. I just want to shift gears in one last direction. And, there's a phenomenon that we're seeing here of nations from around the world coming to Israel and being so thirsty to learn Torah, to connect with Israel, to connect with Jews, which is in sharp contrast to the rest of the world, much of it that is against Judea and Samaria, the West Bank as they would call it, and seems to really be against Israel. And there's this phenomenon of those that are seeking to connect. Are you seeing that also locally where you are, that non-Jews are interested and are coming and are seeking to connect?
A little bit. I can't say too much. Certainly there are a number of people who are interested in converting, but I don't know that I can't say in Montreal. I think here you're seeing it because this is where the center of the light is emanating from. So there's an attraction. All these Jewish communities outside in the world, I don't know that it's such a center of the light that the non-Jews are drawn to it. We're surviving.
Well, I think they're drawn to it, but because they're over there, they're being drawn to their closest Jewish communities.
Yeah, we're surviving in the exile. But to say that we're this shining light that everyone wants to come, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
I also appreciate the fact you're using the word exile, because a lot of people say the word diaspora, which to me smacks of a certain legitimacy. It means that Jews are dispersed there, and there's some Jews here and some there, and to each their own. But exile means we're not where we're supposed to be.
We are not. That is 100%.
And that's so. Thank you for being a leader of your community that's keeping the spiritual health there, and thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure being here. Really, it's gonna be hard for me to leave. But my wife and kids back home and my community, we need to go there to bring everybody back here, God willing.
But we see ourselves as custodians of this place. So really, like when you come back to Eretz Yisrael,
I'll take that
bring
piece
them
right
here.
over there. If I can.
That's yours. Done. Let's sign on the dotted line. Rav Yecheskel Freundlich, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
Success and hatzlacha.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Eve Harrow, host of Rejuvenation on the Land of Israel Network. You can hear a new show from me every Sunday, and every day of the week, shows from another one of my very talented fellow show hosts. Reach me, Eve, at thelandofisrael.com, and keep listening, everybody. We love your feedback. The Land of Israel, coming at you every day, every week. That's the Land of Israel Network on